So the film has been watched. We've gone through, we've, analyzed everything. The Rams, Ravens. I didn't feel amazing about this win, but after watching the tape, I feel very good. We're going to get into it. Before we do, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Follow me on all social media at JKBogan, including Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Kick, and Twitch. And in addition to that, just want to let you guys know that today's sponsor is, of course, Sleeper. And you're definitely going to want to get in the action with Sleeper using my code JKB. You can get 100% sign-up bonus up to $100. So be sure to get that match there. And, of course, get in on the action with Sleeper and get your free $20 entry without deposit. So if you haven't gotten in on that, you definitely need to do so. Touchdowns, passing yards, rushing yards, receiving yards, it's all that. They also have other sports as well, but right now it's football season, so be sure to get in on the action with Sleeper. So Matthew Stafford, I thought, looked really good. The stats didn't indicate that, but I think he really dealt with quite a few drops in this game. PFF only gave him one, which was to Davante Adams, but I counted at least 4 on film. I thought the fumble was bad, even though it was a complete blow-up rep by Coleman Shelton, but I think the Rams need to commit to the identity that they naturally are. They're trying to be this team. They're trying, we saw the 12 personnel push. We saw trying to run the football and be run first to protect Stafford, but this is a pass-first team that sets up the run game through the passing game. And the way Stafford is playing right now, it's never been more evident. Despite a down day in the box score, Stafford is still tied for second in touchdown passes in the league. He's leading the league in passing yards. He leads the league in big-time throws, and he's 6th in passer rating. If he's not a favorite for your MVP, I don't know what you're doing, and I'm not at all worried about him. Kyren Williams. He had a very interesting game. It wasn't easy. He faced a stacked box 54% of the time, which is second in week 6 for all running backs. And it's also the most of his career. We are starting to see defenses respect Kyren Williams as a top running back in the league. And we haven't really seen this yet. I think a big reason for this also, to be fair, is during the game, the injury to Puka Nacua. But that being said, Kyren had plenty of yards over what was expected of him, and he helped in the passing game, most notably on that 30-yard catch that saved potentially the game on 4th down, sets up, the goal line carry that he has. And yes, the fumble last week was devastating, cost him the game, among other things. But last week is last week. Performances like this are why Kyren was worth the extension. And speaking of running back, I thought Blake Corum showed a lot of shiftiness, and he looked better in the run game. I think he's improving. He has to get better in pass pro, but I do think he's improving. So now we look at Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua really got hurt before he could make an impact. I think, first off, really put the offense in a tough spot. I think he was clearly going to be a part of the offense in a big way, like he always is. And, now he's likely going to miss some time with this sprained ankle. But that being said, I commend Stafford for, still moving the ball down the field with the offense, despite not having their best player. Tutu Atwell wasn't available, so it really kind of put him in a tough spot, but I thought he did some really good things. Davante Adams had his moments. He had his chances to blow this game up, and I counted at least 2 drops, maybe 3. He just has to be better. He has the most contested catch opportunities, but he has a horrendous catch percentage, and he's now going to have to step up as the number 1 receiver. While that shouldn't seem like a big deal, he has struggled with the drops, but I believe in him. I think the Rams are facing a tough Jaguars team overseas this upcoming week, and Adams, of course, to be fair, roasted the Jaguars over an open fire last year. Different team, but kind of similar team, so we'll see what ends up happening. The touchdown drop was a drop. I understand Stafford could put that a little bit more on the money, but that needs to be caught. And then, of course, the drop over the middle on the intermediate ball. I think the big thing with Adams is that before earlier in the year, it just looked like Stafford hadn't been on the same page with him. That makes sense. He missed most of training camp, if not all of it. And so you didn't get those reps with Adams. But these have just been drops. Is it concerning? I don't think so, but it is the most drops that Adams has had in quite some time. So obviously he needs to clean that up. I think it's also worth mentioning the Rams losing Puka Nacua felt more dire again because of Tutu Atwell, who is expected to play this upcoming weekend. And I think that's going to be a huge layer to the offense that is back. I think they were missing that. Jordan Whittington was disappointing. I've always been singing his praises, but he had 2 drops, and at least one of them cost him a first down conversion. So Whittington, I'm still very high on. He clearly has the explosiveness to be dynamic in the passing game, but when he got his chance on Sunday, he only saw a limited view of that. It was really cool to see Konate Mumfield get some reps and Xavier Smith. Now, personally, I am not worried about Nacua as long as it's not a high ankle sprain. If it's a high ankle sprain, now I'm a little concerned. We haven't been told it's such. It's just an ankle sprain. The Rams have the London game, then the bye, and then the Saints. And I'm not trying to overlook anyone in this league, but I can't imagine the Saints being a game the Rams can't win without Puka Nacua. This is a blessing in disguise. I believe now Nacua gets time off his feet, the wear and tear, all of that, and you are now forced to use other guys like, essentially Mumfield, Atwell, Whittington, Xavier Smith. It's going to push you to even use the rookie Terrence Ferguson, who's coming off a performance where, he didn't even get in the stat sheet aside from a carry for 0 yards, but he had the most snaps, 17 of his career in a game. So it makes you feel like this can be a better offense because now these guys are going to have more reps than they would have had Puka Nacua not gotten injured. Obviously, you never want to see it, and I hate it for Nacua. He's trying to break records. It's now going to be incredibly hard for him to do that, but missing a game or two, essentially, and he missed this last game, it sucks, but it's not the end of the world. And if anything, it's actually good news from what it could have been. The real good news, I thought, was Tyler Higbee looked back. He looked back to form. I haven't seen that Tyler Higbee this year. So I do wonder if he is finally 100% healthy. I know he was dealing with something, and I think that could be the case where, he was in a spot where Nacua went down and Stafford trusts him the most, so he targeted him more. But also, Higbee was dealing with an injury, and I think maybe he was playing through that, and then finally it became too much. They put him on the shelf for a little bit, and now he's back to form. I hope so, but that was a really good performance from him. And speaking of how great performances are, the offensive line, aside from a few blow-up plays, were fantastic in pass protection. Steve Avala's return was as advertised, and it's exactly what I've been saying. His 16 reps in pass pro against the Texans really led me to believe this guy is going to be very key and critical for this team. Warren McClendon Jr. did a really nice job. Watching the game, I didn't think it was that great. Watching the all-22, keying in on McClendon, he looked really good. Now, he had help from his friends. He had a chip here and there, from a Terrence Ferguson, from a Davis Allen, what have you, but he looked really good. He held his own, and so did Alaric Jackson. Neither of those 3 gave up a pressure on the quarterback. Only 3 pressures were given up in total by the offensive line, and that came on 2 blow-up reps. You had Coleman Shelton, and then only 1 pressure was given up by Kevin Dotson, who played, I believe, his best game of the year. To me, this was a breath of fresh air because it shows you that the Rams have the talent up front to keep Stafford protected, and Stafford already has a lot of experience being pressured this year and having to get rid of the football quickly. So imagine what's going to happen when, of course, now he has time to throw, and he's already had the experience when he has to get rid of the ball quickly. You give Stafford time, he's going to be absolutely surgical. That is why it's so important to have the offensive line. The negative person, though, might look at this as it's a product of who the Rams are going up against, and that's certainly fair. The pass rush has a lot of raw talent, but trading away Odafe away and having Nnamdi Madubuike on IR really weakened the floor of this Ravens pass rush. I don't want to get too overzealous, but that was an outstanding performance, and I just don't think I appreciated it enough until I went back and I watched the film. Can Warren McClendon Jr. be the right tackle of the season for the Rams? Is he going to have to replace Rob Havenstein? The bottom line is if Warren McClendon Jr. continues to play at that level that we just saw, and it's not a fluke, and it's not about going up against Atavius Robinson or just, these kind of more raw, not super high quality pass rushers yet, well, if it turns out that he continues to play at that level, he might just be a better option than Rob Havenstein, who's going into a contract year. I think the run blocking was also better than what the box score showed in the run game. The Ravens sold out to stop the run, as mentioned, 54% of the time. Kyren Williams was dealing with a stacked box, but especially when Puka Nacua came out, they have a lot of respect for Kyren. I thought the offensive line had their best game of the year by far, and it was such a great response. Poona Ford, by the way, on the defensive side, just continues to show out in the run game. He's an absolute run stopper. He can obviously work as a pass rusher, and he's still a problem, but he stifles the run game. He was sure with Derrick Henry, he was not going to let him in the end zone. He blew up that goal line stand for sure. Derrick Henry had a very good game, but the Rams looked to be okay with that so long as they didn't let him first off, they didn't let him score, which they didn't. And second, they didn't give up a bunch of dink and dunks like they did last week. Kobe Turner, aside from that penalty, which of course, he got him on the hard count, did some really good things. The stat sheet just simply didn't show. And I thought Braden Fisk, while he struggled a little bit in the run game, he looked really good as a rusher, winning 20% of his reps. And Poona Ford won 14%. That's a lot for an interior defensive lineman. Speaking of interior defensive lineman, Ty Davis continues to play a lot. And he's playing as many reps as Poona Ford, the former 5th-round pick out of Clemson. He is key in the run game. He had a fumbled recovery in this game. I think he just continues to get better. He looks like another home run selection from the 2024 draft class. Jared Verse had his another best game of the year. He continues to stack those. 8 pressures, a sack. He should have totally had another sack, but he botched that. He was screwed out of a fumble, forced and recovered. We don't have to get into that, but Jared Verse won 35.5% of his pass rushing reps, which is absolutely insane. And Byron Young won 30.8% of his pass rushing reps. He had 2 sacks, almost had 3 on back-to-back plays. So Young also had 6 pressures to go with that. Young continues to show up and look like one of the best pass rushers in the league and one of the best duos in the league for the edge, because those two in unison, they look so good right now. And I can't say enough about Josiah Stewart's development. He already looks like one of the best draft picks in the entire 2025 class. They slept on him because of his size, and it doesn't matter. The guy just makes plays. Run defense, he had 2 stops. He looked really good. He gets off his blocks. What he lacks in size, he makes up for in heart. He makes up for in leverage. He does a really nice job of using the leverage, and he had 2 pressures on over 40% of the pass rushing reps. He won those. So he had a really good win rate. He was on fire. And this guy looks like he is going to be something special. In the second half of the season, I'll tell you right now, his role is going to get a lot larger. He's getting better each week. The Rams truly have replaced Michael Hoyt, not in body type because Michael Hoyt's a lot bigger, but they have that third edge defender that they can trust, a guy that can drop into coverage. He can do it all. Here's the difference. He's got a crazy ceiling, and I think he's going to get a lot better than where Michael Hoyt was, who I really like, to be fair, but I think the Rams absolutely hit a home run on this pick. Number 10 just jumps off the screen every time I turn on the tape. And speaking of a guy who jumps off the screen every time I turn on the tape, Nate Landman. He's exactly who I thought he was, and many of us thought he was. Now, to be fair, I thought he was a good signing, could potentially start. I really liked the pickup, but it wasn't until the Rams started pushing him on us. The media started telling us that this guy is having a fantastic camp, and then all of a sudden I started to see shades of Zach Bond. And he might not be Zach Bond because he doesn't have the athletic profile of Zach Bond. However, he is one of the ultimate steals of free agency. Color me shocked. Another Colorado Buffalo, the Rams get in free agency for pennies on the dollar, ends up being a key starter and one of the best players on the defense. That sure doesn't sound like anybody I know. And of course, I'm talking about Ahkello Witherspoon. Now, Landman just set a franchise record with 17 tackles in a game and only his 6th game as a Ram. Are the Rams going to bring him back for another year or at least extend him to a long-term deal? That remains to be seen. I know this team doesn't spend at linebacker, but Landman is just one of those guys you can't afford to let leave. He looks like a franchise linebacker. He looks like a huge mistake made by the Falcons for not bringing him back, and he looks like a mistake in the future if the Rams do not sign him. Speaking of linebacker, Sean Dolak also looks like who we thought he was, an absolute stud, a 3rd-round grade I had on him. Dolak led all linebackers in Week 6 PFF grade. Landman was 2nd. It's become clear that Dolak, like Omar Speights, could have started the season as the starter, and the Rams could have been fine. He was everywhere on Sunday. Dolak earned the right. He absolutely earned the right to start. And for the time being, there's a chance he's going to wrestle that away from Omar Speights. That remains to be seen. I bet in a perfect world, the Rams expected to sign Landman and Reeder for 1 year, hold them over, and have Speights and Dolak start in 2026. But Landman has been so good, they may have to change plans, sign him long-term, and have Dolak potentially be the starter. I love this linebacker room one way or another, and as bummed as I am about my guy Chris Paul Jr. getting cut from it, it just goes to show you how deep this linebacker room is. And to be fair, Troy Reeder, I thought, looked pretty decent on defense. Give him his respect. But he had a really nice pass breakup of Mark Andrews, but he's 100% a special teamer, and he's a good one at that. He's probably the best special teamer on the Rams. I would go as far as to say he's one of the better special team players in football. I understand why people don't like him. They think he's a liability, and he's not that athletic to be on defense. But it's important to realize that special teams is still important. He's a big reason why Troy Reeder himself, all of it is a big reason why he's a coach favorite. Okay, he's stuck around this league for a while, and the reality is Troy Reeder forces a fumble, gets called back on special teams. He's always making critical plays on special teams. I think it's time to give him credit where credit's deserved. Do I think Dolak should play special teams and Reeder should be the defensive player that's starting? No, but I do think Reeder deserves more credit for what is a total thankless role. How about those cornerbacks, by the way? Talk about thankless. Kobe Durant, Darius Williams, and Emmanuel Forbes, although I would say Darius Williams and Emmanuel Forbes look better than Durant, but they all looked really, really good. And I understand it was Cooper Rush, but the Ravens have talent in that wide receiver room. Zay Flowers, DeAndre Hopkins, Rashad Bateman, they have guys that can be problems, okay? And that said, I thought Darius Williams turned back the clock and looked outstanding in coverage. I thought Kobe showed out, and I thought Forbes looked really comfortable and probably the most comfortable he's been since Akello went down in week 2. I find that result of a 17-3 win and not blowing out the Ravens is kind of clouding a lot of people's judgment of this game. The quarterback room especially. This is a unit where everyone, including myself, has been panicking over the last few weeks. And they have been saying, bring in this guy, bring in that guy. I've been saying it. But in poor conditions, they dominated the Ravens. I don't care who was playing quarterback. That was pure domination, and they deserve respect. Quentin Lake, speaking of which, did his thing. Had a huge interception earlier in the game, his first of his career, although he had one, I believe, against Seattle his rookie year, and it got called back. So that second interception, but the, flag called it back. Anyway, also had a huge fumble recovery. Nate Landman, shocker, punched it out. He looked great in coverage. Aside from one mishap where he's trying to jump a route, he looks like an absolute star. I feel like I say this every week. Cam Curl had a good game. Cam Kinchins had a good game. Jalen McCullough had his moments. The safety room, as I always say, is one of the best, if not the best, in the NFL. And this week showed nothing different. Now, the kicking operation has to be better. Sean McVay said himself, Josh Carty can't miss a field goal that close. But that said, he's been great throughout his career. Anybody that is trying to push him out, the door is quickly forgetting how tough it was in 2023 with Lucas Haversick and Brett Maher. We don't want to go back to that. So the whole kicking operation, 1 through 11, as McVay put it, has to be better. That includes Josh Carty. We'll see what happens. Obviously, special teams unit is a little bit of an issue. We'll see what ends up happening. My final thoughts on this are this. Terrence Ferguson's utilization was frustrating. Packed with optimism, though. I think he's getting close to being let loose. And I didn't love the end around because he's more of a build-up speed type of guy. But he did have a season-high 17 snaps, and that was with Tyler Higbee active. I know Parkinson didn't play, but that was interesting. That's something to watch, number 18. AJ Green was called up from the practice squad. Surprisingly didn't play on defense. We saw him on special teams. The cornerback stepped up, but I was very surprised we didn't see him. I made a video on him, and I feel like I wasted your guys' time. I'm sorry. Hopefully that wasn't the only time you'll ever hear of him. Should the Rams find themselves dealing with injuries at wide receiver? I want to make this very clear. I think it's a problem. If you talk about a Tutu Atwell, a Puka Nacua, if something serious happens and you have an older Devontae Adams, I could see them looking at an Odell Beckham Jr. I could see them looking at practice squad wide receiver Gabe Davis as options to be added to this roster. They have other guys as well. They have Brennan Presley on the practice squad. They have other guys. But I'm telling you, this is a Super Bowl team. And if they do have any significant injuries, do not be surprised if they go after practice squad wide receiver on the Bills, Gabe Davis, who can take the top off the defense and replace the Tutu Atwell role, and Odell Beckham Jr., who would just be potentially a familiar face that has a good rapport with Stafford. And it's been a while, but hey, it worked out the last time. I think he could still play in this league. He's not retired. He still wants to play. We'll see what ends up happening. I don't think they do that if they don't need to. I'm saying if they need to and Puka ends up having injury issues and Tutu can't stay healthy and all of that, don't be surprised that those two are guys that they look at. Sean Dolak and Warren McClendon Jr.'s performances are a reminder of how deep the Rams are, and both could steal those starting jobs. I'm not kidding you. I absolutely love the depth this team has. And I think Dolak and Warren McClendon Jr. could 100% steal those starting jobs. This Ravens team, no matter what anyone says, is desperate, and desperate teams are scary. This was a good win to get out of Baltimore in bad weather and improve to 4-2. I don't care what anyone says there. Rams still made stupid mistakes, but they are 4-2. No team in this league looks like an absolute favorite yet, and there's still time for the Rams to fix it. But that said, if Chase Blackburn doesn't fix the special teams unit soon, the Rams will have to move on from him, because this is one, if not the worst unit in the National Football League. And the last note I have here for you guys, the Rams defense is currently second in the league with 10 turnovers, tied for the Steelers, which is on pace for 28. This would be the second most turnovers in the Sean McVay era, while only giving up 18.3 points per game, which is third in the league, only behind Houston and Denver, but that would actually be the fewest points per game allowed in the McVay era. The defense had a rough night on a short week against the 49ers, and I believe a lot of that was due to the play calling and the game planning, not necessarily the execution. But they are who we thought they were. I keep saying it. I'm going to keep saying it. They are playing without their top cornerback in Nikello Witherspoon to boot. If you're sleeping on this Rams team, I don't know what to tell you. I understand people like being negative. People want to see college football, and the Rams have all this talent. You see Adams, you see Nakua, you see Stafford and Kyron and Jared Verse and Byron Young and Braden Fisk. I get it. But the Rams aren't going to blow out many teams. They just don't play that style of football. Would I like to see them? Sure. That said, do not, I repeat, do not sleep on a team whose only 2 losses are against the Eagles on a blocked kick in Philly, where they dominated most of the game, and the 49ers, who they literally got off to the worst possible start against, still climbed their way back and almost won in overtime. Those are their 2 losses. Those are pretty good. The best team in the league right now is probably the Indianapolis Colts currently, and the Rams beat them. They came back in a game that they probably lose 100 out of 100 times in the past. So say what you will. This team has a lot of heart, resilience, a lot of talent, a lot of depth, great coaching, and while their floor is decently high, they still have a lot with that ceiling that we have yet to see, and we'll see in the second half of the year. Those are my thoughts. Let me know in the comment section below you guys thought about this game. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment, and check out today's sponsor, Sleeper. JKB is the code, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, folks. Later.